By the time you finish watching this video, you are going to be absolutely clear about the concept of a risk and a gamble. What is a risk and what is a gamble? And for those of you who have generally led a risk-free life, not taken too many risks in your career or haven't taken too many gambles, you will find some of the insights very useful. In fact, I feel some of you may be induced into taking a couple of risks and a gamble so that in a manner that it helps you. So therefore, watch this video till its end because some of the revelations are going to be really interesting and useful for you and beneficial for you. And I'm quite certain about it, right? So what is a risk and what is a gamble? Are these two the same, or is there any difference? Or is it that where a risk ends, a gamble begins and it's just a matter of degrees? Should you take a risk even in your career or in your profession? How to take a risk? Is there a set format? Is it beneficial for you? Is the written down process of taking a risk? Right? Similarly, a gamble. Is there a process of taking a gamble? Is there some science behind the art of gambling? Is a gamble good for you? Should you take a gamble or not? And if you take a gamble, whether it will work for you or not. These are the kind of things that we'll address in today's video. Because this question about a risk and gamble is a very important question. And it's almost a daily occurrence in our life. And why daily? Almost a minute to minute. Anything that you and I do, we evaluate it from the point of view of it being either a risk or a gamble. Whether to play it safe or to play it aggressive. Isn't that right? Whether you're a student or a manager or a businessman, whatever. You evaluate it on the basis of risk and a gamble. And that's why it becomes very important. And some of us are natural risk takers and natural gamblers. Well, others are not. Some of us like to play it safe. But whether you like to play it safe or whether you're a natural risk taker, it pays to understand some basic construct which lies beneath this concept of a risk and a gamble, because then you can take whatever steps you're taking with full awareness, with full knowledge, with your eyes open, so that your benefits are maximized. That's the objective of our channel, right? And that's what we'll be talking about today. My name is Vikram Limsay and you are watching Careertainment, your favorite career resource channel for professional managers, students and entrepreneurs. Thank you for liking, subscribing and sharing the channel. So what is a risk and what is a gamble? In fact, I touched upon this topic very briefly in my discussion about a week ago with the inimitable Professor Dr. R. Vaidyanathan. And I hope you watched that video. If you haven't, it is there on my Guru Speak playlist where I attempt to bring to you these great professors and lecturers with so much experience to share their insights with us. If you've not watched it, watch that video. But in that, the point being, in that we touch very briefly on this topic of what is a risk and what is a gamble. And in his own fun way, he explained it to me. He said that, Vikram, a risk is, let's say in Bombay let's say in Bombay, for example, these are crowded locals where people are, hanging for their life and going to their work on a day-to-day basis. I identified it because I did that for quite a few years at the beginning of my career. So you are always aware of the downside and the dangers that it entails when you're hanging outside the train compartment and the train is hurtling to, let's say, Churchgate. But each of them has a job to do or a business to attend to or a workplace to go to and some objective to be achieved. And that's when it's called a risk. You're aware of all the downsides and the danger and you have an objective to achieve. But suppose you do the same thing on a weekend when the train is empty. And you're doing it just for giving you some adrenaline rush because it's habitual, right? That's when a risk turns into a gamble. Well, it was his own nice way of explaining it, but I thought the topic was really serious and let's delve into even more detail and get some more insights so that it helps us. And that's what I did, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you. So before we go any further on what is a risk and what is a gamble, I would like to spend just about 30 seconds on the concept of return on effort employed. Return on effort employed. I'm certain all of you are aware of it, but just for revision. Any action or act that we undertake is with reference to a certain result or a certain return that we expect out of it, a desired result that we expect out of it. You can call it a reward or something like that, right? A student, for example, puts in an effort to get best marks in his exams, or a professional manager puts in a lot of effort to get his salary, promotion, bonus, increment, whatever. A businessman puts in a lot of effort to get more money out of his business, right? So that's his return, expectation of return on his effort employed. And the return need not be monetary. It can be psychological or emotional. Take the case of a mountaineer, for example. He puts in an effort, and his return expectation or reward expectation is the exhilaration and the sense of achievement that he derives when he reaches the top. Or take the case of an athlete or a sports person. Their expectation of a reward or a return on effort employed is to get an Olympic medal, for example. Yeah, so it's different. Yeah. So, but the fact of the matter is that this concept of return on effort employed is what makes the world go round. Agree with me? Now let's come to the concept of risk. Now what happens is, whenever you put in effort or take an action towards a desired result or a reward, there are a set of variables which act as impediments, as roadblocks, as speed breakers in the path of you achieving that result, right? So when you are aware of these variables which will impede and which will act as roadblocks, yet you go ahead and take that action, you are said to be taking a risk. Is that clear? I'll repeat it. In every action towards your desired result, there are a set of variables which will pull you down, which are acting as roadblocks. And you are aware of that. And very important, you're aware of these roadblocks, and in spite of you being aware, you go ahead and take that action, and that is called a risk. And in doing so, what do is that you take each of these variables and try to work on it. You try to reduce the impact so that your chances of success increases. That's typically how a risk action is undertaken. Clear? I'll give you a very non-business example. Let's say you're doing mountain climbing. Now, the effort that you put in mountain climbing or rock climbing is the exhilaration that you expect to derive when you reach the top. And then let's say there are three sets of variables which will pull you down. They act as roadblocks. It has rained a lot, so therefore the rocks are absolutely slippery. You don't get a firm footing. That's one variable which is going to reduce your possibility of getting a return. Second is that the reeds, because it is rained, have overgrown and you can't hold on to them because they are thorny. They'll tear your hands and skin, so that will take you away from your result. They'll reduce your possibility. And finally, the slope is very steep so that you can't climb, and that will again pull you down. Now, these are the variables which are roadblocks. How do you address them? For the slippery rock, you wear footwear with those Vibram soles so that you get a nice grip. For the reeds which have grown up, you buy a pair of gloves or wear a pair of gloves, and so that you don't hurt yourselves. And to safeguard yourselves from that steep fall, you probably wear a safety harness and anchor yourself somewhere. And that's how you take care of these variables in the hope of achieving. But you still go ahead with that option, right? That's how a typical risk is taken. And everything is a calculated risk. Quite honestly, people telling me, hey, there is a calculated risk and a non-calculated. There's nothing called. Every risk is a calculated risk. Now, how good you calculate, how bad you calculate is another thing, right? So that is what a risk is, and that's how you take a risk. Right? There are variables you address. Let's look at what is a gamble and how do you address a gamble. What is a gamble? Unlike in a risk where the variables of what is going to pull you down from the possibility of achieving a success, in a gamble, the possibility turns into a probability. And the variables which are known in a risk are unknown over here. Right? So you move in a gamble from the risk from possibility, realms of possibility to probability, and the variables are unknown. So you can either succeed or fail. You can be happy or be unhappy. You can win or lose. You don't know. It's a complete blind call. Yeah, that's the characteristic of a gamble. Right? So how do you take a gamble? How do you take a gamble? In risk, it's very clear. You know the variables, you address each of these variables, try to reduce them and go ahead with that action. But in a gamble, you don't know. So how do you go ahead and take a gamble? So the process of, before you go into the process of taking a gamble, it helps if you understand the theory of probability. For those of you who've studied maths will know that. What does a theory of probability say? That probability is the fraction of your desired result over the total number of likely results that can happen. Yeah, I'll explain it simply. For example, if you flip a coin, there are only, if your desired result is that you will get a heads. When you flip a coin, there are two likely results that can happen. Either you get a heads or a tails. So your desired result is 50%, which means you have to flip the coin 2 times to at least get your desired result, right? Let's take one step forward. Let's say a dice. If your desired result is to get a 6 on the dice, on the face of the dice, and there are 6 faces. So when you throw a dice, you have 1/6 of a chance of getting your desired result. Right? So you have to throw the dice at least 6 times for your results to come. Right? Now, you need to understand this probability, basic concept probability, before you approach a gamble. Right? Now, how do you take a gamble? Now, the point is, many people don't understand that gamble is a fraction of the total likely possibility, and always likely possibilities are more than once. So therefore, if you take only one chance at a gamble, and if it doesn't work out for you, there's no point being despondent. You have to take 2 chances. Let me explain it. Let's say you, and I'm talking of a proper gamble. So let's say you are taking a gamble of, let's say, a job switch, for example, where there is a chance of either you being unhappy in that job or being happy in that. There are 2 likelihoods, right? Now you take the first gamble. In the first gamble, you find that, oh, I got a very happy workplace. Fine, it worked out for you. Very nice. But remember, you were supposed to take 2 gambles. It just happened that on the first gamble itself, you found a happy workplace. So that's your luck. But suppose the reverse happened. You took the first gamble and you said unhappy workplace. Now, don't be afraid to take the second gamble. Remember, you are supposed to take 2 gambles. So maybe you have to take 2 because it's just the roll of the dice. The first gamble you took, unhappy. If it was happy, you're lucky. But it's unhappy, many people get despondent and then they're scared to take the next gamble. No, go ahead and take the second gamble. That's how you need to approach the second gamble. Understand the theory of probability, do a little study of yourselves and connect with me offline. It's a very interesting concept. Now, to approach how to take a gamble is in this manner. You need to understand the total number of likely possibilities that can happen, be open to taking at least that many gambles, and therefore it brings in the concept of time. Now, assuming there are 3 likely possibilities, and you want 1 desired result out of that, and you are taking the gamble at the age of 55, where you don't have the time to take 3 gambles. So therefore, the time becomes important. So in your career or in your profession or your business, if you need to take a gamble early. Because you'll always have to take more than 1 gambles to succeed. If you take 1 gamble and succeed, you're lucky. But if you don't succeed on first time, you need to take 2 or 3 or 4 gambles. So therefore, it pays to take a gamble early in your career. So as you proceed in your career, reduce the chances. Don't take too many gambles. Earlier on, take. Secondly, you start in the early phases also with smaller gambles. Win small, lose small. Then win medium, lose medium. Then win big. So you gradually increase your stakes in a gamble. That's how you address the gamble. So I told you what is a risk, how to take a risk. What is a gamble? How to take the gamble? It's important to address a little bit of theory of probability. I hope I've not made it complicated, but try to understand the point, right? Now coming to the last point, whether you should take a risk or not take risks. Many people on whether to take a gamble or not take a gamble. Many people say, no, I don't like to take a risk. I'll plan a very risk-free life. I'll never change a job. I'll never try anything else. Please, there is nothing called as risk-free. If you think that you have not done anything, not doing anything is the biggest risk. It is the risk of inaction. You don't realize it. So people, they think that they're not doing anything. They're actually taking the biggest risk. Right? Understand that. So Whether to take a risk or whether to take a gamble. What's life without a couple of risks? Do that. Because go back to the return on effort employed. Only a risk gives you a higher return on the effort employed. So take a few risks in life. What's life without a couple of risks? And whether to take a gamble? Sure. My view is the entire life is a gamble. So take a couple of gambles. That'll drive the adrenaline inside of you. Only remember one thing, 2-3 things. One, in a gamble, take it as early as possible. Start small in a gamble. And in a gamble, the most important thing, do you remember that old Kenny Rogers number? You need to know when to hold. You need to know when to fold. You need to know when to walk away. And you need to know when you run. Remember to listen to that number. It's one of the greatest numbers ever by Kenny Rogers, called The Gambler. The name of the number is also Gambler. So I hope this video has helped you, and I hope you'll take a few risks, take a few gambles. If you're younger, take more gambles, and let me know if it's helped you and whether you will succeed. Let me leave you by this nice number on Kenny Rogers. I hope it's on my playlist. Yeah.
You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough to count.
So know when to hold them, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, know when to run. Take a couple of risks, take a couple of gambles. That's the secret of understanding risk and gamble in your life. What's life without a couple of risks? What's life without a couple of gambles? Bye for now. Take care till we meet again. Cheers.